Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be giving you my Gemini February 2020 horoscope forecast, part 2 of 2. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, first thing up is, as far as February goes, Mars will be in Sagittarius from the 1st until the 16th, so the 7th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, the situation with the grandmother, it could be relationships in general, important friendships, a significant other, a marriage partner may be more contentious and acrimonious, more so than usual. There may be arguments with these people about religion, or there may be philosophical disputes and differences, arguments connected with the law, even sports debates at this time, and even arguments perhaps even connected with the outdoors. It could just simply be whether going outside or not, or doing things outside in contrast to indoor activities. Now, if you're unattached at this time, Gemini, you may connect with a Sagittarius Sun, Moon, or Ascendant person, or it might be one that simply embodies Sagittarius characteristics. It may be somebody that might lead to a significant other situation, eventual marriage situation. Could just simply be a sexual liaison with a foreign person, but it could be with a foreigner or somebody of a different religion or ethnic background. But it could be somebody, again, that could lead to some kind of marriage, or it might be somebody that may be in a 7th house profession, such as something with negotiation, law, or arbitration. Now, it could also be a time too where you may be putting a lot of energy and vitality into Sagittarius type competitions, such as sports, outdoor competitions, or it could be something connected with higher education, learning beyond high school. And it may be something too where it might be some energy and vitality put into some kind of Sagittarius type business, as far as like a business relationship or partnership, such as something with the law, the sports, the outdoors, something connected with translation, or anything that could be a Sagittarius related publishing firm. Now, next thing up, Mars will be in Capricorn as far as February goes, from the 16th until the 29th. So the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, Gemini, well, the situation with the sexual partner or someone you're in a intimate relationship with, or shared resources scenario, may be a little bit more contentious and acrimonious, more so than usual. There may be arguments over just general following certain rules, regulations, parameters, or maybe arguments connected over responsibilities, over things that are just, it could be just very serious arguments in general, or arguments connected with politics or the government related matters. Now, could also be at a time too where if you're unattached at this time, Gemini, you may connect with a Capricorn Sun, Moon, or Ascendant person, or simply one that embodies Capricorn characteristics. It may be for a deep connection, one that is not superficial. It could be something too where it could simply be for a very strong sexual connection, since we are talking about Mars and the 8th house. But at the same time, this could also manifest in some cases, in isolated cases, as perhaps some Capricorn related surgical matters, such as something with the knees, the bones, the joints, the hamstrings. And at this time too, it could also be at this time where you might be taking action into making a very methodical, very conventional type transformation at this time as well, Gemini. So anyway, well, the next thing up is as far as Jupiter is still going to be in Capricorn, so the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, well, this could manifest in a number of ways, Gemini. You might find yourself at this time, as I've talked about in previous videos, Jupiter could be rather paradoxical, could be very strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. Now, in some cases, this may enlarge and expand responsibilities, limitations, restrictions, even despondency, perhaps in 8th house related matters. It could be matters connected with sex or the shared resources situations, or even as far as getting moral, emotional, or monetary support, even tax and insurance related matters. But it could also be very auspicious and fortuitous for making a very methodical, very systematic transformation, or one that is very serious at this, with a lot of serious energy at this time. It could be something too where it could also be very fortuitous for some kind of business related shared resources situation, or even a career transformation at this time, Gemini. And Jupiterian type people might be figuring more prominently in terms of at this time in terms of moral, emotional, monetary support. It could be like publishers or people in religion or philosophy or higher education at this time. And again, this could be it could be a good period for it could be for a sexual or intimate connection at this time if you're unattached at this time, Gemini. But at this time too, just guard against, this could also be a time too, in some cases, the 8th house is connected with death in astrology. So just guard against, be very careful as far as foreign travel goes, because Jupiter is connected with long distance traveling. The 8th house is associated with death once again. So just be careful at this time, Gemini, as far as those matters go. So anyway, next thing up. Saturn will still be in Capricorn, so the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. Now, at this time, Gemini, you may be experiencing some restrictions and limitations as far as moral, emotional, monetary support, even libido at this time. It could be in as far as matters in an intimate or sexual relationship or shared resources scenario. But at this time as well, you might find yourself taking care of a sickly or debilitated person that you may be involved with intimately. It could be in a sexual relationship, or even somebody you're in a shared resources situation with that you might be very close with at this time as well. But also positively manifest, this could also be about a time where you're just getting structure and discipline in your sex life, and also in matters that are connected with shared resources. It could also be a time too where it could be about taking responsibility and doing so very consistently at this time. As far as tax and insurance related matters go. And this could be a time too where, Saturn could be, again, it's very inhibiting, very restrictive energy. So it could be a time where, again, you're dealing with certain restrictions in 8th house matters in general. But also it could be a time where it could be Saturn could be about what puts us, about our fears as well. So it could be about a fear of making a major transformation or change, or even dealing with a crisis situation at this time. But it could also be about taking responsibility in those matters as well. And older people might figure more prominently in terms of you making a major change, transformation, dealing with a crisis situation. It could even be psychological matters in some cases. So anyway, next thing up, Uranus will still be in Taurus, so the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, well, Gemini, this could be a time where you may have some ingenious ideas, but you may be keeping them somewhat suppressed, or kind of keeping them, behind closed doors, so to speak. Or you might feel it could also be a time where your freedom and independence may be inhibited to some degree. Or and also guard against. I mean, sometimes this could manifest in some cases as being overly eccentric or unusual behavior may be one's self-undoing at this time, or being overly non-conforming could be one's undoing. You may be dealing with some sleep disruptions at this time, as Uranus could be disruptive energy. The 12th house is connected with dreams, the unconscious. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. Also at this time, this could be about a time too where there could be some behavioral modifications you may be going through but they may be misconstrued as something else, as a mental illness in some isolated cases, when the case may not be. Because remember, we're talking about, I mean, the 12th house and Uranus could be, somewhat, about or how we might change unexpectedly. And the 12th house is also is the house connected with, corresponds with Pisces, the house of confusion and illusion, and it's also the house of mental illness. So you get the idea. You can do the math on that. But anyway, it could also manifest in some cases as Uranus people being like hidden adversaries in some cases, such as astrologers or people in aerospace or astronomy, or innovators, people involved in computers, electronics. You might be dealing with some limitations in terms of the internet and with computers at this time, Gemini. In some cases too, Taurus friendships may be figuring more prominently in 12th house matters. They may be Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant people, or simply ones that embody Taurus characteristics. They might be figuring more prominently in secret sorrows, your limitations, restrictions, private matters, your solitude, seclusion, and whether or not they're actually beneficial or more to your detriment, a lot of that could be predicated and dependent on aspects made to points in your chart. A sextile trine your natal Jupiter, they might be more auspicious in these matters, but say an adverse aspect to your natal Saturn, they might be more to your detriment. You might be dealing with some loss and some sorrow and grief and limitation in those matters. Next thing up, Neptune will be in Pisces still, so the 10th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, Gemini, well, 10th house people may be a little bit more nebulous and unclear, more so than usual, such as the dominant parent, which is often the father, people prominent in your career, your vocation, your livelihood, people that might figure strongly in your public image, your reputation. It could be dealing with some kind of scandalous matter in terms of your reputation at this time, and dealing with fallacious statements that might be affecting your character. It could be a time too, on a positive note, Gemini, that you may be doing something Neptune related as far as your career goes. It could be doing something like with poetry or dancing, working as a medium or a psychic, or doing some with photography, chemistry, the metaphysical, which includes astrology. Spirituality. Could also be about a time, sadly, where it could also be about the dissipation or dissolving of one's reputation and public image, but also a time for idealism, perhaps in attaining success, maybe getting a position of authority, gaining more notoriety and recognition at this time, and also increasing one's stature in life and social status. Last but not least, Pluto will still be in Capricorn, so the 8th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So at this time, Gemini, this could be about a time where you might be making a very powerful transformation. Some cases too, I know a lot of you don't want me to say the dreaded D word, but I'm going to anyway. Some cases this could manifest in the actual or literal death of it could be a sexual partner, someone you're in an intimate relationship with. It could be somebody that's prominent in a shared resources scenario. But at the same time, you might be dealing with power struggles with 8th house people, such as tax examiners, or could be people in the 8th house profession, such as occultists, or people in astrology or the occult, supernatural tax, people that are tax examiners, people in insurance at this time. It could also be a time too where you might be at this time as well. So we're talking about Pluto and the 8th house. It could be really about doing, again, some kind of very powerful transformation at this time, and also digging deep into matters connected with an inheritance. It could be at this time, and also maybe establishing a legacy of being very powerful and somebody that could be in control, somebody that could be very, really imposing when he or she wants to be. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.